consume, enhance, replicate.
So we are good on audio. Let's get that testing.
And there's no video, right? I'm not wrong.
No.
I have so many notes. We are good to go.
All right.
Hello? Testing?
Testing. There he is.
Okay.
Hey,
Did you get all the alcohol?
Hey. Maybe? I was gonna take a shot earlier, but
Did you finish watching
that didn't happen.
the M. Night version?
Oh, Jesus, I did. Yeah, that happened. That's why I needed a shot earlier, but then I forgot I had to sell my fish.
Do you have like one shot for each like element yet, or what the heck?
Not yet. I mean, I did finish off a bottle, so however much was left in there, maybe it was about a shot, maybe 2, maybe 3. I don't know.
Dancy wants to know, can he interest you in some cabbages?
My cabbages.
Anna felt so bad. We were watching. I think we're still pretty early in, but like it's been like 3 or 4 times they've run into the same cabbage guy, and Hannah's like, "Why are they so mean to him?" Like, to be fair, he puts his shit in the wrong place.
He's just trying to make some money.
If we've learned anything, it's that everyone has their own path and destiny, and his is clearly to never make money off his cat.
The platypus bear was
He
terrified.
made lots of money.
He's like Sokka. He's cursed to live a short, miserable life, mostly of his own doing. So,
or as M. Night says, Soka.
Oh, I honestly think I think that was a directorial. I think that they chose that because it means like Soka in like Japanese. Like I understand, but it's stupid because we don't know which meaning they chose. There's like another language that Sokka means lover boy. So we really don't know if I don't know what like Brian Konietzko or Michael, whatever Dante DiMartino thought of when they thought of this name, but
obviously
I really
it meant
don't
lover boy.
Yeah, clearly.
Because I mean,
all
seriously,
the girls
how many girls does he?
Including me, but
Oh, me too. I mean, but like the choice that they made is kind of obvious because like they have a specific pronunciation in the show, so
right. It's just
what
like
the
any
hell?
dialect coach would be like, why would you do this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would you go against the show, which has like probably hundreds of recorded voices saying Sokka like over and over again? This guy's name.
Cabbage the
also, that
mysterious
actor
fifth
was
element.
he's a really handsome guy, but he like has no charisma and makes me just want to punch him in his face. Like, no, like that's not Sokka.
Guy who plays Sokka?
Yeah.
He was in All That.
Couture? No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was.
The character actor, or the guy in the live action, Jackson Rathbone.
Oh, the character actor. Jackson Rathbone was in Twilight.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait, was he? Oh my god!
Yes, he was.
And Katie's broken.
Oh my god! Ew! Okay, I need a shot. Hold on a second.
Yeah, these are the things I get distracted by.
Ooh, okay, great. Okay, because I think his voice actor, that's gonna drive me okay. You just broke me twice in a row. Okay, Jack DeSena was in a lot. Holy shit, he was. I've never seen his face. Oh my god. Okay, yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. And he's also in the Dragon Prince, right?
I have not seen that.
Oh, okay. Well, if you want to Netflix party it, we're in the middle of the pandemic, so
She's
It's
trying
not
to
too-
talk me into Netflix partying Dark.
Have I been subtle about that? Like, please, Jay, what do you think?
Oh my gosh,
Doing anything?
I'm about to start season 2, so
Gosh, I would totally watch with you. It's so I like it so much. Have you seen it?
they all just need to die.
I have not seen it.
It's like meets Stranger Things and then had a love child with Werner Herzog. So it's right up my alley.
I've never seen Lost.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're probably better
Well-
off for that.
No, you're not a Lost fan.
No, I hated Lost.
Mm.
Okay,
Sorry.
That was
A show like the ending of that show was horrible.
So, did you not like it the whole time?
No, I watched like 2 episodes. I was like, this is dumb, and then I forgot about it until 6 years later. Everyone lost their shit when it ended, and I was like, oh, I should probably go watch that.
I
Watched
got
2
it
episodes again and was like, this is dumb. I'm just gonna watch the last episode.
Why
Watch
would
last
you decide
episode.
to watch it because people lost their shit over the finale?
Well, because I was like, oh, okay, maybe I missed something. I didn't miss
Did
anything.
you hear that heavy judging
Oh.
from Josh in that tone?
I'm used to it. I'm used to the heavy judgment from Josh. But yeah, no, I watched
I
it
was
again
really-
and I was like, oh, nope, still don't care. And then the ending was like, I was like, what? I don't know.
I mean, if you want to talk about terrible endings, let's talk about Battlestar Galactica.
Hey, no, okay, look. Look. Fuck sci-fi. Because they do
You
that
mean
to
Frax?
every goddamn good show that they have. They do that too.
Don't you mean frack sci-fi?
No, I said what I meant. I said exactly what I meant. So is season 3 the last season of Dark?
I've heard that it is, but I don't know.
Okay. Lost should have warned us about JJ's inability to finish.
Oof, oof, ow.
You're not
I mean,
wrong. You're not wrong.
Fringe was so good.
What was the ending of it? I cannot remember the ending.
It jumped forward like.
Oh,
20
that's
years.
right.
Um,
Yeah, it did the time
Hey,
jump.
Jay,
Yeah.
randomly, Sochi wants to know if she can watch. Is it like Is this on Twitch? That like
Yeah. Here, I'll shoot you the. I'll give you the address in the chat.
Okay, sorry. Thank you. Are we live yet? Can you tell me when we're
Yes.
live?
We are live.
We are.
How far are we
yeah,
with Dark?
there's people in the
I
chat, like,
just
just
finished season 1, which was the best ending ever, or like the best like cliffhanger was like, "Welcome to the future." Punch to the face. I was like,
Yep.
yes, you're all fucked.
Years.
Were you also turned on by that? Or am I the only one who like gets excited? Wait, is it's not appropriate? Like, what rating is this?
the actual show when we start recording, we'll probably try like PG-13.
Okay,
But,
okay.
like,
Is that I actually don't know. Like, Dark makes me just like not like a mental boner, not like an actual boner. You know, like I
What
get
is this
excited.
show now?
Oh my.
Now I need to know more.
It's this German show on Netflix that is science fiction-y and weird and really dark, and it's called Dark. Yeah, I don't want to spoil it, but it's the time and bad people and cult. You like like culty stuff because I like culty stuff.
Oh, okay. I do like culty stuff.
Yeah, it's actually. I mean,
Me
it
too.
is. It's one of those shows though that you can't. Yeah, it's one of those shows that you can't like turn on in the background though, because I mean, first off, it's especially if you're playing it in German, but also there's like tons. It's very very strong on the visual side. Like a lot of the storytelling's actually in the cinematography as well as what's actually being said. So like it's not one of those background shows, which is actually why I appreciate it. But there's definitely some parts in it where it's like, what the fuck just happened? Like,
Oh my gosh. Well, I will say for a time travel show. Did I just spoil it? No, I did. I will say for a show that involves time, I think they do a very, although it's really hard to keep track of what's going on and who is who.
yeah,
I think they do a very good job of answering the problems that inevitably come up with time travel shows,
within
and also
within the particular paradigm that they exist in. Yes, I think so as well.
Yeah.
They actually, I think they answered the one of the big problem questions, like the paradoxical question. They answered that in the first season, which was actually one of the reasons I was like, "Oh, okay, fine. You've actually addressed the elephant
they're
in the
so
room."
good
They're
at
like
that. They really are.
they're like, "Here, this is the common problem, and this is why it's not a problem for this situation."
And
So it was like, all
I
right.
think they do handle the plot line in general
Oh
really
yeah,
well, which is why
I still have
like
really no idea what's going on, but like I know
But-
what's happening, but I don't know why it's happening, which is why I enjoy it.
right. And characters don't make like smart decisions, which is why it's good because humans don't make smart decisions. I really like that. I love it when that's why I like Avatar, like when consequences matter and not everything is solved by a really smart person.
Well, speaking of Avatar, you want to start?
Yeah, I'm ready. Wait, let me do some more of my drink.
Get some more liquid. Get some more liquid courage in her.
I'm starting with fire. It's like vodka with a soda that's a spicy soda, and it has like tahini on the side. So it's mm-hmm.
Interesting.
It is a Bernie drink. It's a ginger, like ginger beer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a ginger beer plus vodka plus tahini, and I like it, but I don't like it at the same time. Oh gosh, I get that gravel like when I drink like Zuka.
All right, just let me know when you guys are good.
I'm ready. I don't know. Are you ready, Josh?
Yeah, sure.
Do you
Yes.
want to introduce the realm?
Yes.
Setup
Yeah.
of
So
fire
I'll
things?
kind of walk through it, but what I think is like do a summary of the setting and then like some basic themes and then maybe a really basic introduction to the primary characters, and I'm assuming that will probably get us through the first one. And then I'm just going to turn both of you loose on the second one.
So are you going to ask us to like are you going to say, Josh, do you want to describe the universe, or Katie, do you want to describe like the problem in the first episode, or like how are you going to have us go back and forth?
We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're
It's just gonna
this
fly by the seat of our pants.
Yeah, these particular episodes are much more casual. Like they're just,
Oh, no
that's
worries.
why we call them Let's Chats, but
I feel like I'm learning I'm learning your ENF, your Myers-Briggs type on the go. So
just go.
It's not a bad thing.
I mean, I will also definitely say like for reals, like I watched series in like the span of a week. So like I'm probably not the best to like describe things for other people.
But Josh, like as far as
Also,
archetypical
just watched the
personalities
anti-thing.
go,
Well, yeah, I
as
can
far
talk
as the
about all sorts of bullshit, but like setup, I'm not the setup type of person. Like
waterbenders are
that's
obviously an archetype of what was that YouTube video you sent me?
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
I can do setup.
Oh, all right, okay. Let's get this kicked off. Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on June 5th, 2020, over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, I want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. This week's episodes are going to be focused around exploring the universe of Avatar: The Last Airbender. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the intro session of the week's exploration. Before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who we have with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86. For this week, I'm actually also joined by two good friends. First up, we have Mochi Lama. Wow, I am going to just like start off strong on that one. We call her Katie.
Nice job on you.
Katie, how are you doing this evening?
I'm very excited and a little nervous, but mostly excited.
Good. That's how you should always approach things. Next up is a returning guest co-host, Informage, Josh. How's the evening treating you? Did you get your fish sold?
I did get my fish sold.
What are the turnip prices?
The turnip prices are not good right now, but I already sold my turnip.
What kind of fish was it? Was it a bass? Was it a trout?
I mean, it's all sea bass. I'm talking about Animal Crossing. In case you on Animal Crossing? Do we need to? Oh.
Oh.
Okay.
It's gonna be one of those conversations.
Flameo Hotman.
I'm sorry, I disappointed you. My honor. Okay.
Oh man. Well, Katie, real quick, Josh, we've had you on the show before, but Katie, this is your first time on the show, so we have couple usual introductory questions for you. Where can we find you out on the internet?
On Twitter as Mochilama1, which is really else thought of the name Mochilama. I want to talk to them. Be like, did you think of the exact thing I did? An image of a llama eating mochi. You know how llamas like chew cud? And, yeah. So I'm on Twitter at Mochilama1, and yeah, I think I'm just on Twitter.
Well, okay, perfect. And then you're also the one of the geniuses behind the Lore Network.
I don't know if I'm genius, but
you understand the SEO components.
Most undergrads understand SEO at this point.
This is false. That's not true.
See, on the Lore
Network.
I love how Josh and I are like, nope, that's a negative.
I do post on the Lore Network. I have one blog and like 7 in the works, but I'm that guy who wrote Ice and whatever. Like, I like to keep people waiting.
Oh, George.
So I'm Mochilama on the Lore Network. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. And then, so how did you get started, and what kept you interested in Avatar in particular?
Avatar. I'm a big fan of animation. I've watched anime since I was very little. We had a Japanese kid who lived with us when I was a little kid, and he would watch Sailor Moon and had me listen to Japanese rock music with him, and he was just so cool. I thought he was the coolest person ever. Wanted him to be I called him my brother. and then I've always had an interest in anime and science fiction since then. So I Avatar came out in like what 2005? Is that correct? Let me. I believe it is correct. Since I was not the key audience, I was a little awkward about watching it, so I didn't watch it, and then I found watching it anyway and liking it a lot. And yeah, so that really hooked me. It had all the elements I was
Hashtag
looking
old
for.
people problems.
Old people problems. It had all the elements I look for in a show. Keep me in.
Ooh, I see what you did there.
Yeah, I watched. I think I watched it 2 years after it came out, 07. So that was like what our junior year. Hashtag old. And yeah, I've been a fan ever since. I have a few appas, like plush appas, and yeah, a big fan of the show.
Nice. Josh, what about you? What got you into what got you started in
He was
Avatar?
bullied into watching
And what kept you interested in the
So-
lore of Avatar?
I watched Avatar for the first time like last month during quarantine. It was a super fun time. Or I guess now it's 2 months because time is relative. So yeah, people had been pestering me to watch it for forever, and I finally did. I don't know. I tried it like a while ago when it was first on Netflix, like probably like 5-10 years ago, and did not enjoy the first episode. Felt that it was like really cartoony, and like I had kind of missed the boat on like a lot of like the big animation, like smart animation type things that have been happening like in the past like 15 years or whatever. So I don't know. I just missed this one and have only recently picked it up. But yeah, I'm through Avatar. I'm through Korra. I watched the M Night film today.
So you've gone
Just
from
because
Is
I
that-
wanted
is
to
that
give it a
film?
chance.
I think you have to refer to it legally as a travesty. So
I think the what was the response that you gave him was I think that violates the Geneva Convention.
yeah, it's a hate crime actually. So we have to. We're like,
I always knew what the feeling about it was, but it's also still on Netflix. So that happens.
That happened.
that happened. I think there's a support group also. You can like if any of you have been hurt by
I'm
M. Night
totally
Shyamalan.
part of the community now. Like it's only been 2 months for me, but like I'm one of y'all.
There is live action Avatar in Boxing Day.
So, well, I guess I'm going to actually kind of turn it over to Katie here. Katie, do you want to run us through like a basic introduction of when people talk about Avatar? Like Avatar: The Last Airbender is separate from I think it's Legend of Korra, right? Those are two separate. They're in the same universe, but they're two separate story arcs. And is that a correct statement?
It's like a follow-up series. You know how Voltron has like Vehicle Voltron and Legendary Defense? Like it's its own series. It occurs in the same universe, but it's not, and it does have a few overlapping characters, but it's not a sequel in that it doesn't follow Aang's adventure. It follows a new Avatar's adventure.
Okay, got it. So with Avatar: The Last Airbender, that is following Aang's story,
yes,
right?
Yes, there's 3 seasons. Mm-hmm.
So let's walk through for like the intro session era or an intro session. What is like the overall? What would you say the overall like layout of the I keep wanting to refer to it as the game world. It's not a game world, but as like the Avatar world. What is that kind of like?
Joshua, do you want to describe the universe, or would you like me to?
I think since you've been in this longer, that you should do it.
Okay. So, when we start we learn as we go along. There's an intro that kind of defines, which has been parodied a billion times on social media platform possible, that describes universe, which is water, fire, earth. Long ago, there are 4 elements, and there are 4 nations that are capable of bending one element each: the airbenders, earthbenders, firebenders, and waterbenders. The Avatar disappeared 100 years ago, and the world fell into ruin because the Fire Nation attacked. So for 100 years, the four nations, at not at odds with everyone. It's mostly the Fire Nation, but they've been completely focused on fighting this war, which we don't know anything about. We just know that the Avatar disappeared, and episode 1 opens on his from an iceberg with his pet Appa, who is a sky bison, which is a big hairy animal that can fly and I think has 6 legs. So
Definitely 6 legs. I've had this argument about how he's probably an insect because he has 6 legs.
Oh, that's so cute. Yeah, exactly right. So yeah, so that's the Avatar universe. There are these 4 nations. There is this one human that exists as the Avatar he's the only person who can control all 4 types of bending, and he's meant to, which is real convenient universe, that you have these 4 powers that should be diametrically opposed and battled, but they only seem to start to have a problem when the Avatar disappears.
So normal, like, so does everyone have the ability to bend, or is it only certain people?
That's actually something of a plot hole, in my opinion, is that we don't know what makes a bend not. And we have all benders. The universe, the narrative never really, and at least in never really address what causes someone to be a bender. It's just random. And in some places, benders are of short supply. They'd start to die out. Like in the Southern Water Tribe, Katara is a waterbender in a while after raids from the Fire Nation. They're closer to the Fire Nation than the Northern Water Tribe. They've been wiped out. Attacks. They get murdered by the Fire Nation, and she's in quite a while. No one is used to her bending, and it's like a surprise but a happy. But we still don't know in why some people become benders, why some people don't. Bending is kind of in touch, becoming in touch. Later on, we find out that bending energy and spirits, so we can assume maybe that benders are more in touch with their spirit than non-benders. But in my opinion, it's kind of a plot hole as to who's allowed to who becomes a bender and who doesn't.
Okay, so you do have like
that's true.
Regular
It does get explained later.
Yeah. Okay. So but like you have, so not everyone has the capability to manipulate. So it's basically the classical elements, like the Aristotelian elements.
Mm-hmm.
You have fire, earth, water, and air. Okay, cool.
And only certain people have the midichlorians to manipulate.
Oh my
them.
god! Just I need.
I'm gonna be the troll tonight.
Yeah,
Welcome.
So, but you said also that you can only, like, people can only bend one element, except for this one super special person, the chosen one. Is that correct? So you don't. So can you have? Can you have? So it's either you have one element or you have all the elements. There's no combination of like earth and water.
There's no combinations in any person. Well, I don't. We're talking about Avatar, so in Avatar, there's no combination.
Okay.
In any.
I guess that sounds like that might be something that gets kind of introduced in legend.
It gets explored.
There's like specializations of ending,
Oh,
I guess.
yeah, okay. Because I remember reading something about like I think it's like metal benders or something.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
They're a subset of earthbenders rather than like people combining two elements.
And the greatest. It gets invented during Avatar, so only the greatest earthbender ever is able to create metal bending.
It's too bad she'll never be able to see her creations.
Wow. That was going for the low blows here.
So, from a cultural standpoint, like so is it like super is it super political, or is it just kind of like convenient politic drama for the story arc? As far as like, because you said like the Fire Nation basically started this whole drama war thing.
What do you mean by political? Are the
like do you actually get into the politics of like what causes the different cultures to have problems with each other, or is it just kind of one of those things is like, oh well, a long time ago this person decided that he wanted to take over the world?
I have an answer for that, but do you want to answer that, Josh?
I mean, I'm kind of interested to hear what your answer is.
I would say it has a surprising amount of politics, and I think I associated this series a lot with Gundam Wing when I first watched it. It really gets into the nitty-gritty of why these wars happen and different sides, and taking you essentially it's a child series, so take through different viewpoints and all kinds of fairly complicated reasons for supporting or for fighting a war. So it does get fairly political, especially book 2. It gets the most political, but it does, you do learn a lot. But the best part about Avatar is that it's very story. You don't learn it outright. Like no one's saying this is what the Earth Kingdom has, and this is it. It does it simply through stories.
Yeah, I don't know, because I think when I think of like sci-fi fantasy narratives getting really political, I think of Dune, and Dune is just a nightmare of politics and everyone fighting against each other. So, I mean, I guess comparing that with Avatar, like my initial reaction is to say that it's not very into the world politics of the setting, but
Right.
you're right. Like it's like it does a really good job of portraying where these different nations are coming from and how these conflicts have happened, um, and don't like weigh themselves down with it.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't get to a point where the politics drags. It's a really balanced show, which
Okay.
is funny. But yeah, it gets fairly into the politics, but I think it does so always in relation to the plot, which is like why it's a beautiful show.
Right. Well, and so
Yeah.
like, okay, so like do each of these kingdoms have I'm assuming that each of these kingdoms have a pretty distinct culture from, they're not all the same, obviously,
And one
otherwise
kingdom has 2 cultures, but yeah.
Okay. So what would, can you kind of give us like a rough kind of breakdown of the different cultures of those that get presented in the show?
Sure. You have the Fire Nation, which is a dynastic monarchy that has gone power hungry for various reasons. It's a completely power um, nation. that is an aggressive nation, which kind of goes along with the so it's the Fire Nation. They all have different names too. There's the Fire Nation, the Earth, the Air Nomads, and the Water. So the Fire Nation is monarchy. The Earth Kingdom is also a monarchy, but they're scattered, and they all kind of follow the idea that the Earth Nation, the Earth Kingdom is they're these proud, kind of fortified, and huge. They you see them expressed more disparately than any other, and that's actually addressed like verbatim in a line in Avatar about how there are many of them, but they're all strong. By I think it's Iroh who says that line. Um, so they're very, very disparate, but they're where fire is the element of power, earth is the element of substance. So it kind of makes sense that their kingdom would be expressed in various ways. They have a lot of cities, which we see throughout the Avatar's journey. The Water Tribe is broken into the Northern Water Tribe and the Southern Water Tribe. And we are introduced to the Southern Water Tribe in episode 1, which is kind of this sad little cluster of igloos with only women and children. And Sokka, who is one of the main characters, who's a teenage boy. And we've learned that their men have all left to go fight the war, but we don't know the reason that they chose that time to leave at that point. So they're this kind of sad cluster. And then alternatively, we have the Northern Water Tribe, which is very different from the Southern Water Tribe in that they're a powerful kingdom with warriors and waterbending. The Southern Water Tribe has only one waterbender, doesn't really know how to use it at all, which is Katara, Sokka's. And then we have the Air Nomads, who they're based off Buddhism and I think Taoism a little bit. They're a peaceful nation. They live in almost inaccessible temples in mountains. They're airbenders. And one cool, while reading about literally everything I could just to be prepared for this chat, was actually all children who were airbenders, who were of the air nomads, became benders because of their way of life. Like they have a do no harm, peaceful mentality that is really compatible with their element. So all children who were air nomads would become benders, which is different from every.
So possibly like related to this idea that everyone can become a bender, but possibly more so for them because of their
Connection.
spiritualness.
Yeah. And that's not something we learn in the show. That's a fact that was added to the wiki by one of the creators, which is like tantalizing because I'd love to know. Wouldn't anyone want to know like how all the characters could bend? All the characters in that universe could learn to bend.
Midichlorians.
Midichlorians. So that was a long answer. Sorry, Blue.
No. I think from what I've experienced of the show, a lot of the characters are predominantly from water and fire, the two nations. Because I think you have the two main characters from the water tribe are Sokka and I just blanked on her, Katara, and then
Sokka.
Whatever.
Sokka's not a bender.
Well, right. Well, but he's from the water tribe, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So you have water tribe members, and then there's the two primary fire is it Zoku and the uncle who is amazing.
Oh,
Iroh.
Yes.
Iroh's he's my favorite character so far from my very limited experience.
He should be everyone's favorite.
just cried. Like I think I was talking to you, Katie, about like we just watched the we're pretty still pretty closer to the start, but we just watched the episode where he thought he forgot his tile. He made him go back. And then the end of the episode, he's like, "Oh, here it is." I'm like, "Oh my god, just love it." And so like, at least I haven't seen too many characters from they've encountered other benders, especially from the earth bending, because obviously, well, not obviously, but one of the historical events that that happened before the show started was the destruction of the air nomads. Correct. So there really isn't, which is the name of the show, the Last Airbender. Do we want to? So why is Aang the Last Airbender?
Josh, I'm going to keep asking you just because I feel like I can answer that, but I want to be a kind person and not blab too much. So.
I mean, yeah, Aang is the last Airbender. They were all wiped at, and part of the politics of the what ended up becoming the war that was started by the Fire Nation was that the Fire Nation knew that the next Avatar would be born into the air nomads, so they just decided to wipe all of them out.
Yeah. So Aang, in book 1, I think we learn why he runs away towards the end of book 1. But we know that he wakes up because of Katara. She's the first waterbender in a while, and she has no one to teach. So she just kind of mostly gets her brother soaking wet while she's learning. And while they're out fishing to get food for their village, it really is a village at this point. It's not really a nation. It's just scattering of igloos and women and children and their grand. And while Sokka pisses her off because he's at this point not a feminist, and, just being annoying to her and always expecting her to do everything for him, all the women's work, and she gets pissed off. She starts to use her bending, and unbeknownst to them, there's this iceberg in which the Avatar is dormant, and using her bend opens the iceberg, and there's this big flash of light, and he appears like 12 years old with unknown creature to them, and that starts the whole show. Him appearing, he doesn't find out until the end of 1, which is called Water, that his people have demolished in his absence, in his 100-year absence.
Right. And
So
he ended up surviving because he had happened to run away shortly after he was identified as the Avatar. And shortly after he ran away, the air nomads got wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I guess I want to kind of follow up on that. You had mentioned that the Fire Nation knew that the Avatar was going to be an air nomad. Can you guys kind of explain how do they know that? Like how does that get explained?
It's cyclical, so it's in a pattern. Each element follows the other in a reliable pattern. So the previous Avatar was Fire Nation. So I don't know the exact pattern. I think it might be, if I'm guessing based off of the season,
air,
it's like
water, earth, fire.
Yeah. So the previous Avatar was Roku, and then before that would be Kuruk. Is it Kuruk? Who's water, and before that would be Kyoshi. And so it would go Kyoshi, who's an air bender avatar, followed by Kuruk, who's a water bender avatar, followed by Roku, who is a firebender avatar, and then Aang, who is an airbender again. No, I missed an earthbender somewhere.
I think Kyoshi was the one
Was
right
she
before
Earth? Yeah, she's
Roku.
Earth. Sorry. So
yeah, she's Earth.
So sorry. So Aang disappears. He's a young avatar.
Mm-hmm.
We learned through season 1 that the Fire Nation has become aggressive, and the air nomad monks. So Aang is raised by monks, not his parents, which is also interesting. Tell him he's quite young. They normally would tell him at 16, and he's only. But they don't have a choice in their minds because the Fire Nation has become aggressive and is starting to attack the other nations. They need him to train early. And so he is only a kid, and he doesn't cope with this very well, being normal, being able to play, and he runs away from his duties. And in the middle, he and Appa fall into, and then through miracle of being the Avatar, he's preserved he creates ice around himself to save himself, literally, until he's awoken by Katara.
So, and that's called the Avatar cycle, correct?
That's the Avatar cycle leading up to Aang.
Okay.
In his absence, the Fire Nation are looking for him because they expect an air avatar, and their solution to preventing is to burn all of the air nomad. So when he goes to look for his people, when he's away there's only a bone left.
Which also presumably is why they started attacking the Fire Nation. Then started attacking the water tribes, is because then they expected if they had wiped out all of the air nomads, then the next avatar would have been
Would it
water
have
tribe.
been water? Yeah.
Because that's
then-
how we got Korra.
But then the question would become, why only the southern water tribe? Is it just because they're close? Because the northern water are more formidable?
I mean, I would imagine. I mean, because plus the northern water tribe is so built up, as we see towards the end of, or at the end of book 1. And they have a lot more benders. Like that's a little more problematic for fire people.
I have a theory, but it is speculation, so that'll be for later.
And then real quick on the Avatar cycle, is it so? Are they different people, or are they all the same person? I guess because we're kind of talking about a cycle there. That kind of sounds like a resurrection type thing.
It's a reincarnation.
Yeah. So okay. So they are a
It's-
reincarnation of each other.
It's both and neither.
Yeah.
They're all the avatar, and the avatar is one person, but they are different individuals.
Okay. Because they're predominantly the bender that they are born into, I assume.
Exactly.
So I guess,
Yeah.
Josh, I know you and I have joked about this before because there was the terrible YouTube video, but it does seem like each bending element also goes with like a personality type. So like, is that a fair statement? Like, is that do airbenders and waterbenders and firebenders and earthbenders, do they all have like a particular strong element of their personality that kind of shines more than others?
I think it's unfair to ascribe personality traits to a particular ending element, because I think it's
fair.
Especially in this setting, like, because those elements are representative of different cultures and different nations. I think that's more of a.
So it's
more of a cultural influence.
Got it. Okay. So it's not like the Earth people are more stubborn. It's that the Earth culture is more aware and more defensive, whereas the Fire Nation is more of like an aggressive, offensive, like combat focused.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. And I think I don't know. Katie, you can probably talk a little bit more about this, but I think that's also, like, especially in terms of the benders, that's also kind of seen in the style of what's the phrase I want? Like the martial art of bending for each individual
Mm-hmm.
element.
Yeah, because
Yes.
sorry, Katie. Just real quick, I was like the Katara's like motions are very similar to kind of like a Tai Chi esque
You hit it on
style.
the head.
Yes.
The creators created each bending with a different martial art. I don't know which type of Tai Chi, but it is a Tai Chi that they used for water bending.
Okay.
And earth kung fu. I think fire is like Shaolin kung fu, and airbending was a martial art. I'm gonna probably mispronounce, but is Bagua Zhang.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So each and that one's based off of more circular motions, which I thought was really interesting too. The circular movement defined.
That makes sense. That actually, yeah, because kung fu or gung fu is based on keeping connected with the earth and staying like it's all based on lower body strength, whereas Tai Chi's more about fluid of movement. Yeah, actually, all those make really actually a lot of sense.
Yeah, one of the really interesting things that especially you'll see if you're only in book 1, when they move into book 2, and which is the Earth book, and you start to see a lot more Earthbenders, like you see how like squared off they are in their stance and how rooted they are.
The crazy dude, is it
Boomy?
Boomy?
That doesn't. Oh yeah, Boomy.
Boomy's
The
stance
crazy
is
dude
like,
wasn't
well,
specific, but
okay,
Boomy.
yeah, fair.
I know
They're
Boomy.
yeah. Well, Boomy's like there's the fight scene where Boomy actually, like at the very end of that episode where the older Boomy comes out and starts fighting. I can totally see that because like he's very very like cut, like he makes sure that his feet are planted literally and figuratively, and it was actually really cool to see that.
He's also super buff. Like, is anyone else weirded out by how buff the old people are in this universe?
I'll be honest, after watching as much anime as I've watched, I just it's just, what's the anime I was watching earlier? Is it Baki? It's the wrestling one. I'm like, these people are just inhumanely, there's muscles on muscles, and I don't understand that. But
that's so Dragon Ball Z.
No, it really is. Like it really is.
Master Roshi, anyone?
Oh
God. I mean, in terms of Avatar, I think it's more. I think that's just how Boomy is, because I mean, Iroh isn't exactly.
That's
ripped.
true, but Iroh also, like, and I think they kind of explain this in one of the episodes too. Is Iroh is the way, I think they haven't fully explained the true nature of the differences, but like a lot of the fire, and this is kind of the impetus of my question, was like a lot of the firebenders are very very to be honest, not in control. Like they're very passionate about what they're doing, whereas Iroh is very reserved, but he's also, and you see this a couple times, he's also really powerful. Like,
well,
it's not.
I don't want to say anything except reserved is how to describe the current Iroh, and I wouldn't say.
Oh, okay, that's fair. That's because his past, right? Okay.
Like, I don't want to spoil it for you, but I would say Iroh's an exception to the rule.
Well, and I guess my thought there was, it's like, to me, I think Iroh is an interesting character because he isn't the normal, like, fire, the fiery temper. I realize it's kind of a double play on there, but like, he doesn't put off that vibe, and then, but like, he still has like superb control. Like because I think there was the one episode where he gets lightning strikes him, and he like channels the lightning off of him, and it was like, wait a minute, what did you just do?
It's interesting because that touches on another part, which is that there are categories of benders. Not every bender can could do what Iroh did. I
So
think lightning
there's
is
like a
one
hierarchy inside even the
right.
bending. Okay.
Yeah,
Which
I
that
wouldn't
he's
may that
even
like
say
makes
a
that there's a
mega level mutant.
yeah.
yeah.
I was about to say
Oh
that
my
makes
gosh.
a lot of sense
Who's your
actually.
favorite? Who's your favorite Omega level, Josh?
Wait, mutant, or are we talking Bender still?
Mutant. No. Who else could talk about? I didn't know you liked X-Men too.
Oh no.
I mean, I will also say that in terms of Omega level mutants, there have been a variety of uh, definitions for what Omega level means
Mm-hmm.
in universe. So basically, a whole lot of characters have been classified as Omega level at one point or another.
Yes, they have.
So that's a difficult question.
All right, we can talk about it some other time. But I don't even think there's a hierarchy as much as there are normal benders and then master benders. I think there's really only two categories,
Okay.
and some people seem to be
Haha,
really
Master
gifted.
Bender.
I think that's actually I think that's actually one of the I don't know that it's a plot hole, but it is interesting how stacked Team Avatar is in terms of master.
Well, and could that just be because you're focusing on like a story around the most powerful figures?
Well, I was thinking about it earlier. Does it count as like overpowering a team, like 2/5 master benders and the third be the literal avatar who is already overpowered by nature?
Right.
Or is it also so you could say they stacked that team on purpose to win the war, or you could say, could it be that anyone who is able to achieve master level bending is of such a character that they aren't going to sit by while the world burns? So, like, I don't know. I couldn't answer that question in my own.
Yeah, because it kind of almost seems like both, right?
I mean,
Yeah, it's convenient that that 2/5 are master benders and one becomes a master bender in less than a. But also knowing her character, of course she would.
well, I mean, also like this isn't a spoiler because it's obvious, but Toph is just the greatest Earthbender ever.
She is, and she knows
Whereas
it. She knows her worth.
whereas Katara is really good, but like even in the show, she's not necessarily the she's not the greatest waterbender. Like
I don't
she's
know if I
definitely
would agree.
talented.
I don't know if I'd agree
Really?
with that. Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Mm,
She can heal and she can bloodbend. So she's bloodbending only one other person we know of as of Avatar. So she's literally like the second person to learn bloodbending, and she can heal, which Master Paku says is a special gift for the women folk. But
well, well,
There's so many
an
different
asshole.
angles. Oh my god. There is so
Paku's
many
an asshole.
angles that could
And
go down. That I remember when I watched the travesty that was a movie, because I hadn't watched the anime at that time, or the animation at that time, and they brought up the concept of bloodbending, and it was just like I left the theater in tears because I was laughing to myself so hard, because it's just like I'm like, there's so many ways that you could have handled that so much better, and it's just yeah, no, that's just
I mean, also, like waterbenders get stronger depending on the phase of the moon. So,
True.
of course,
Do you know? I'm wondering, like, so we have this comparison between waterbending and firebending, and then airbending and earthbending, which are the polar opposites or natural
mhm.
water, fire, air, earth. Um, and water, fire, they have these um, like not planetary, but like they have these two different
Circumstances
circumstances
that
where their bending is either strengthened or weakened, which is full moon increases a waterbender strength, which is kind of awesome them because full moons happen. So when there's a full moon, they're superpowered, and when there's an eclipse, they're depowered. The same for Firebender. A comet, which kind of sucks because those only have randomly, rarely every 100 years or so. Or I guess we never see a circumstance where they're completely depowered except for the solar eclipse. But I'm wondering, like, what would the equivalent be for air and earthbenders? Like, or just because they're on a different pole than water or fire, they don't have any exacerbating or minimizing elements that affect their bending. I don't know.
I mean, I think that's probably part of it. I mean, because they're so stable and stationary, like they just are. Like there isn't going to be a circumstance that makes them stronger.
But is air stable, or is air more?
Well,
Is
if you're
air
going off the
stable?
classical elements, yeah, air and earth are going to be the more stable. Fire is that's. I mean, if you look, because if you look at the classical cross diagram, those are the opposings, right? Earth is anchoring. Air is I don't know the best term, but air is constant, whereas fire is always changing, and water is always responding. Like it's not like there's not. So to me that makes sense if you're connecting them to like the Aristotelian classical elements. That actually does make a lot of sense that you would have water and fire codependent on or dependent on events outside of their control, like water and the lunar cycle. That makes sense because it's the same thing that happens with the tides. You know, the gravitational pull changes the water. Okay, that makes sense. The fire, I'd be curious, is it just comets or is it also attributed to like a solar rotation? Like, does the sun have actually any power over them?
The sun is where they get their strength.
Okay.
The sun is, I mean,
so
that's
I mean, like would it be
Ira
a
would say
daily
that.
cycle?
Like it didn't. Like I don't think it ever came up where like they were less powerful at night.
Because that was going to be my next question was like, do they become less powerful during the night? Okay.
Plot hole. No.
I mean, because it would also it would just be. I mean, that would be a very interesting dynamic, is because that would be on a very fast rotation. You know.
Yeah, it is interesting that waterbenders are every full moon. However, I will say the comet has more of an effect on firebenders than the full moon has on waterbenders.
Yeah, so like, and I know like, I'm just looking real quick because I know like in the concept of especially like medieval alchemy, these elements are very these are like the prime elements, right? So you have different degree or different cultural appropriations of the elements. Like in Japan, you know, earth would be solids, water is liquid, obvious. Fire is things that destroy, and air is things that are moved. But Japan also has void, which is things that are like supernatural.
Nothingness.
Yeah, it's thing. I think that it's represented things that not of our everyday life is how they describe it.
Can I get the etymology? No. Use it in a sentence. No, sorry.
But like, I mean, you also have connections to astrology with each of the elements will have a particular sign of the zodiac. So like fire is Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Earth is Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Air are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. And then water signs are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. So
what's your horoscope, Jay?
It depends. Are we using the classical or the one that changed in the, like, what was it, 4 years ago?
No one talks about Ophiuchus.
Okay. Can we not? All right. So we're agreeing we're not talking about that one? Then
no one talks about Ophiuchus.
Yeah. F them. Leo is mine. I was so
You're a
mad.
Leo?
I was so mad when they did that because I was like, no. Now I can't even remember what it changed. Well, they added a third. What was it? The 13th or whatever.
Mhm.
It's like, get out of here.
Josh, what are you?
I'm a Virgo.
Your horoscope.
I'm a Virgo.
Is that water?
Earth.
That's an Earth sign.
I'm also an earth sign. Okay.
Team Toff.
Team We're the best. So that means you're a fired, right?
Yeah, correct.
Excellent.
Oh, okay. So that's where Dino's talking about the bending techniques or origin. Apparently, badger moles. Which that's an absolutely terrifying concept. Were earthbenders, dragons for fire, and sky bison for air.
Yeah, and just the moon is the original bender
Now,
of
I watched the travesty movie. There's a black and white fish that swim in an eternal circle.
Tuila.
They're also in the show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't added.
Listen. As much as that movie deviated from things, I would not be surprised.
Yeah. It was not an M. Night twist. Surprise.
That was the twist, that it wasn't a twist.
That was really funny.
Well, so I guess really to kind of wrap up the intro, what are let's kind of just look real quick at the main characters, and then next in the advanced session we can actually dive into those different characters. But who are within the last Airbender story arc, who would you say are the primary characters that we should know about?
You mean the gang?
Team Avatar.
Team Avatar and the gang. Do you wanna talk, Josh, or?
Were you saying gang with like 2
Yeah.
A's?
I love how Josh is like, hang on. Got to make sure that I'm hearing this correctly.
I'm just waiting.
It took me a minute.
No.
Well, so yeah. As far as Team Avatar, there's Aang, the last Airbender, Katara and Sokka from the Water Tribe that we've talked about, Toph, who we've only touched briefly on because she's primarily in book 2, which Jay hasn't gotten to yet. So catch up.
Peasant.
Yeah. And then we've got important Fire Nation characters also in Zuko and his uncle Iroh.
Is he part of the gang? I think the gang is just.
Yeah, I don't think
Team
I would
Avatar.
necessarily consider him be.
He's got his own gang.
Yeah.
He's got his own.
Yeah.
And then in the later books is, I think I had written down Azula.
She is not Team Avatar, but
no, yeah. She's not. No.
She's a very important character.
Okay.
She is like.
She's Zuko's.
She's a big deal.
One big theme in Avatar is the idea of opposing parallels. So Sokka and Katara are siblings who love and support each other, and then Zuko and Azula are siblings who resent and try to kill each other.
You know how it goes. She's Team Scary, according to chat. And then is it Zhao? Zhao is Zuko and Azula's dad?
She's Malfoy.
No, Zhao is the general.
Okay, he's the general. Who's their father?
Ozai.
Ozai.
Lord
Okay.
Ozai.
Ozai. Okay. Cancel
and then their
Azula,
grandfather is Aslan, and then their great grandfather is
who's their great grandfather?
and
Sozin.
that's the glorious legacy of the Fire Nation.
Who the
Okay.
comet was named after. And I think Sozin was the
Yes.
Fire Lord at the
Avatar
time
Roku.
of Avatar Roku. Okay.
Yeah, they're best.
Ozai is voiced by Mark Hamill. Wow.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love so evil.
Yeah.
Sick.
All right. Well, hey, let's wrap up the intro session, and then for the advanced session, let's jump into the different. You guys are referring to them as teams. Let's jump into their the specifics on them, and then what happens throughout the three. I think you said 3 books, 3 seasons of the Last Airbender.
Yes.
So, Katie, we usually do a round of shout outs for each of the sessions. So do you have any shout outs that you would like for the intro session?
Yeah, he's Sokka, pronounced with an aka. No, sorry. Like I paddled my canoe, I'll paddle yours too.
Oh
no,
my.
it's just gonna be poetry that Sokka says, so it's not worthwhile.
Josh.
Shout out to M. Night Shyamalan and my cabbages.
Well, I want to give a big shout out to you two for jumping on and because obviously I know a very little bit because I've started watching it, but I don't know nearly as much as the two of you. So I appreciate. Thank you for jumping on. But yeah, thank you for taking some time and sitting down with us to talk about that. And for everyone listening, I just want to thank you for your time. And until next time, remember, with wisdom we conquer, stand strong, stand tall, and keep exploring.
It's a really nice line.
The gang, the Iroh Club, and the Azula Clique.
I feel like I've heard it as the
You're
Aang
forgetting
Gang.
the White Lotus. Oh wait, no, that's the Iroh.
Yeah, because Iroh is part of the Lotus people, right?
I think the Lotus people are from the Odyssey.
God damn it. My brain, I followed that comment, but then I had to connect it back to what we were talking about, and I'm like that makes sense. No, wait, no, it doesn't. God damn it.
You're welcome.
Oh man.
Right. Before we start up again,
grab some more drink.
Yes, that's what I need.
Okay, I'll be right back. I'll be right back as well.
Yeah, BRB.
Beer you what? Tree. You think you're so smart with your fancy. This is so hard. What do you think cabbage prices are in the Avatar universe? Well, it's a cabbage. So I am. Oh wait, if I'm gonna quote another TV show, I'm gonna quote a rest. It's a banana. $10. Yeah, $10 is my answer. Mm-hmm. Have you not seen Arrested Development? Question cat. Questionable. Okay. I'm so sorry. Something struck my rear. I just wound up. Sokka's poetry skills are fine art. They call me that is in the water. I am not an oaf. I calls it easy. Like I paddle my canoe, I'll paddle yours too. Squish squash, sling that slang. I'm always back at ya. Like my boomerang. That's right. I'm Sokka. It's pronounced with an aka. Young ladies, I rocked ya. Cricket. It has to be cricket. I shouldn't think. I didn't know cabbage could cause, but I guess potatoes.
What happened?
Oh, I'm responding, and I also read all of Sokka's poems from his Tales of Ba Sing Se.
Oh God.
They're haiku. They're excellent. He says, I calls it easy. Pricey damn cabbage. Oh, I also quoted Arrested because that's of all time shows.
You what?
I quoted Arrested Development because Vero asked how much a cabbage would cost, and there's a funny line in Arrested Development where the mother, Lucille Bluth, says, "It's a banana. How much? $10?" Because she's rich and totally out of touch. So. Well, actually, Vero, all of his cabbages get destroyed. So you're right. I bet the cabbages have a lot to do.
Cabbage banking
The fact that
crisis.
his cabbages, there's a cabbage crisis.
I mean, he had to have come up with the money to come up with the Cabbage Corporation
Right.
at some
There's
point.
a cabbage shortage. Tales of Ba Sing Se is why Avatar is so beloved. I agree with you, Mr. Dino Games.
Oh.
Do you need some spicy soda, Jay?
No.
Blue?
No, that does not sound like a good idea.
It's pretty spicy.
I'm having a root beer and vanilla rum.
Oh, that's really good.
That sounds delicious.
It tastes like a root beer float.
I didn't know they made flavored rum.
I think it's not good rum. So
I was about to say, you would not drink it by itself. That would not be an advisable option.
I'm drinking something much less classy, which starts with an and rhymes with Earnoff. So.
Oh, honey.
It's a pandemic. Everything's out.
All right. You guys good for round 2?
Fight.
Yeah.
I tried to sound like that announcer guy, but round 2, fight.
I got that reference.
Ugh.
It was convincing.
Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on June 5th, 2020 over on twitch.tv/Focus Fire Chat as we continue our discussion over the universe of Avatar: The Last Airbender. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the advanced session of the week's exploration. Congratulations to those who have signed up for a deeper dive. Before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who we have with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86. For this week, I'm also joined by two good friends. First up, we have Mochi Llama. Katie, how are you doing this evening?
I'm feeling dumb.
Aren't we all? I mean, this is like week 87 of lockdown, so like, whatever.
Week 87 of lockdown.
Yeah.
Next up is a returning guest co-host and from Mage, Josh. How is the evening treating you in week 87 of lockdown?
I mean, I was able to get my cheap rum, so I'm feeling great.
Hey, cheap rum is no better than bottle of the Baron vodka. So you're no.
Well, let's jump right into it. I know we were just talking about the different groups of characters that we see within the last Airbender story arc. Do we want to? How do we want to tackle? Do we want to go? Do we want to go alphabetical? Do we want to go by group? Like, how do you guys want to?
I think you should kind of go by the way the characters appear. So I would do Water siblings, Aang, and then Zuko, Iroh, Toph, like in the order that they appear in the show. But that's my opinion. What do you think?
That sounds like a great idea.
I mean, yeah, that's probably fine. I would like to talk about Toph earlier, but it's also okay to save the best for last.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
So that would mean, would it be Katara first or would it be Sokka?
They're kind of in what did you just say?
Sokka. Sokka.
Nope.
Oh.
Yep.
No.
Yeah,
Why?
Sokka
is
I don't know.
A sparkly vampire from a film that didn't happen.
You're gonna
Sokka is in Avatar.
Blue, okay? Go to Lake Laogai and come back when you're thinking.
Go where?
You really need to watch some more Avatar. Get with the program.
The Water siblings.
It's pronounced with an.
That doesn't make any sense. Siblings doesn't have that in the.
Oh. Saga. What, Sokka?
Katara's got the first line in the series, according to Dino.
The first line, I don't know. I feel like it's probably her complaining to Sokka. I don't know the first line by heart. That's their relationship. I mean, is that
really kind of their relationship throughout the entire series? Is the relationship we see in the beginning?
Complaining to each other, loving and equal parts, being annoyed just by their existence. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
So siblings.
Yeah, like normal siblings.
I guess that will
like
siblings that we'll talk. Yeah, I guess that is true. I realized as soon as I said that, I was like, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. So Katara though is the waterbender.
Mm-hmm.
The sock man is not a waterbender, but he is a mechanic, right?
He's the token non-bender. Mechanic?
He would define himself as a warrior, but he Hey,
continue.
Think about it, Team Avatar spans all the nations. An airbender, waterbender, firebender, and earthbender, and then there's a human, which everyone that is comprised in the universe. So it makes sense.
They're all humans.
Well,
I was about to ask. I was like, wait, hang on. My understanding just got really twisted up here. Wait a minute.
Midichlorians.
Oh, God. Okay. So,
man, is Iroh the Yoda of the show?
That would make total sense. And from the little that I've seen of him, I would completely accept that.
He's pretty much the Yoda, yeah.
So Katara and the other one,
Sokka.
that I'm always gonna mispronounce anyways. Now that I'm trying to think about it,
We're gonna check in every 5 minutes and make you say it.
Yeah, that's fine. But so he's a non-bender, but so he kind of has to make up for that with basically like technology. Is that a good explanation or a good way of saying it?
No.
Okay. That's fine. I mean, that's fine. I mean, what is his strengths? What does he bring to the group?
It's funny because he was originally
that's a big question.
Yeah. He was meant to be a comic relief. No, it's okay. I get fiery about this. I get heated because a lot of people think Sokka's worthless, but I think the gang would have failed many times over and died if they didn't have Sokka on the team. Sokka he was originally written as a comic relief character who just is there, but as they wrote him, they realized that he's actually the leader, which is really interesting because he's one of the only teams that I know of where the Lancer or the sarcastic, surly, funny guy is a leader. But his first role is to look after his sister. That's why he goes, because he's not going to let Katara just run off with a 12-year-old kid. In ages, Sokka is 15, Katara is 14, and Aang is 12. So his role starts off as watching over his sister, but he really does take on the leadership role of reading the map. He also does a lot of fighting throughout he has a club and he has a boomerang, and later he gets a sword and like a day and a half of sword training boot camp from a sword, which half of that day is crafting a sword. So really only a day of like advanced sword arts. But he's written as a comic relief, but he's actually a pretty valuable warrior, and he defines himself as a warrior many times over in the series.
Yes, as I think it was Dino said, a club to the head is still a club to the head.
Yes, exactly. And it actually is proven a couple times where Sokka does not want to do the planning or he's not available, that they kind of struggle to figure out what to do or what's the right thing to do. He's oddly the dorky comic relief character who acts like a ditz, but I think that's a TV trope, right? Like stupid genius or something where he acts dumb, but he's actually pretty clever.
Yeah.
A lot of artwork, and I was doing some calculating, and I think kill count in the show. So.
Oh wow! Really?
I mean, there are some characters who specifically do not kill, so that could be part of that.
But he says he doesn't kill, but does he? Does he really not kill?
Well, I did have that question.
Right, and I guess because Dancing's bringing that up too. There are two other kind of non-character or non-NPCs, I guess you would call them, Appa and is it Momo?
They're
so like right, and Momo definitely seems to kind of take the limelight for the comical relief away from Sokka, kind of when he's in, because Momo's introduced.
He's an addendum.
Right, Momo is introduced at the time that Aang finds out the events of the air temple. So he was kind of like you were talking in the intro about like that kind of that parallel. Momo is the comedy that gets introduced in the middle of this tragedy. Yeah, so the Avatar series has a really weird, like, dare I say, fetish about blending animals together. Why? Why? Yeah, why do you combine a platypus and a bear? Because that is ungodly terrifying.
Is correct. The platypus bear is terrifying.
The best part about the platypus bear is when it scares or when they scare it, it lays an egg and runs away. I was like, did it just what? Like
Yep. Yes, it did.
Can you name all of the hybrid animals we meet?
I've only met a couple. There's the lemur, I think it was a lemur bat that Momo is, the platypus bear, the insect buffalo that is Appa.
Well, they just call him a sky
Right.
bison, but you're clearly an insect.
Yeah, he's
By the
got
way,
Right?
6 legs.
Got 6 legs and a carapace.
in Dallas, I one time had some taking a nap under a tree in Dallas, and I had something on my arm, and I thought it was fluff, and it was an insect that felt like fur. So that's totally where they got there. It's like some kind of caterpillar.
Ew.
And it bit me. Because I have that.
That sounds like a demon.
It was also a demon. No, but it's like a fluffy caterpillar that looks like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I know which one. I think those are moths, actually.
That's
not okay.
where they got their inspiration for Appa, because that trapper bit me like red.
There's also the giant thing that has a really good sense of smell. It's like a mole wolf thing.
Earshoe?
That one.
Earshoe?
That thing's absolutely terrifying.
And you forgot the saber-toothed moose lion.
I have not met that thing yet. Thank you for that nightmare fuel.
Its cubs are not discernible because they don't have the sharp teeth yet. Also, moose are really aggressive. If you grow
Yes,
in New England,
moose are very aggressive. And they're big! But anyways.
And they smell bad.
So, Katara is the waterbender. Sokka, Sockman is not a bender, but he is a human, which is good. He's more of like the tactician, the dare I say brains of the outfit.
He doesn't think of himself,
right? Which actually, to be fair,
I don't think of himself as the brains either.
Josh is like, neither do I.
He has to be the brains because Katara is too busy being the mom, and Aang is 12 and he likes to play with marbles. So
oh my god, the marble! He's like, ah!
Out of necessity, he's the brain.
So that brings us to Aang. Aang is, we already kind of talked about Aang is the last Airbender. Obviously, that's the name of the series. But he's the Avatar, which means. So is there? I know when he meets, I think it's one of the Firebenders that he's trying to get to teach him. He tells him that he's not going to teach him because he hasn't learned the other elements. Is that connected to the Avatar cycle? Is that connection intentional?
Rephrase.
I think that is the cycle that he's supposed to learn.
Right. Because he has air and he needs to learn. He's supposed to learn water, then earth, and then he'll learn fire.
Mm-hmm.
And Aang kind of gets in an argument about it, but like that. Is that just a coincidence, or is that actually kind of the idea of the Avatar cycle?
What do you mean that they have to learn elements in a certain
He
way?
says because I can't remember the crazy fire dude, but he's the yes, yeah. He says that Aang isn't ready to learn the fire bending because he still hasn't mastered water or earth.
I think John has a fundamentally flawed understanding of fire, because we learned a very different definition. He views firebending as essentially traumatic and dangerous, but when we learn from other masters, we see that firebending is actually beautiful and important for other like he has a very dangerous view of firebending, but it's interesting that we get his view first. His view kind of corroborates Aang. When he's learning firebending, he doesn't take it seriously. He's a very silly kid. Aang himself is a comic relief hero. And he accidentally burns Katara. So he vows never to fire. But so Zhang just kind of corroborates Yeah, Mr. Dino Games is saying it. Zhang seems to hate his own bending ability. He thinks it will always lead to destruction. He also is he's left the Fire Nation army. He's abandoned
Right.
his
He's a
post.
deserter.
He also, yeah, he trained Admiral Zhao, who was a student. He was that master. So he seems to have a kind of corrupted view, but it's not necessarily wrong because the Fire Nation has led 100-year war. But I don't know that there's a certain order to learn the elements in it. I think it's all personal to the avatar at the time.
I feel like, I mean, because I think it's outside of the series that we're talking about, but in Korra does pretty much learn the elements in the same order also. But I think that's more of a, I think it's probably more of a traditional thing.
But it seemed like there were different
especially
regions in Korra.
Maybe. I don't know, because in Korra, like, she learns 2 of the elements, like, really fast in the first episode, and then she needs a lot of time to, learn airbending, which is the last element for her, and which would also be the last element in this cycle because the previous avatar was an airbender. Um, I don't know, but I feel like it's probably more of a tradition thing just because that's the cycle that the avatars appear in throughout the cultures, and so, like, it's just expected that that means that they're supposed to learn in that way. Feel like
But
it's not
Avatar
necessarily
Roku
required.
says we don't know the order Avatar Roku learns in, but he says that water was really difficult. Actually, we do know. If I went back to says what order he learns it in, and he does say water was really hard for him to master. Yeah, there's probably you're right. They probably do learn it in the same order as the Avatar cycle.
Yeah, I didn't know if I didn't know if like because going back to like your idea of the spiritual connection, in order to master each type, you have to have a specific outset of how you look at things. So like because you guys were saying all the air nomads, all kids in the air, or pretty much all kids in the air nomads would grow up to become airbenders, whereas like with the water tribe, or at least the water tribe that we see in Last Airbender, Katara's the only bender. There's other kids. There's actually quite a gaggle of kids running around, but she is the only bender. And then within the Earth Nation, or the Earth, is it Earth Kingdom? Is it Kingdom or
Yes, Earth Kingdom.
Earth Kingdom. It's not like there was. Well, and they have like there's different things, but like there was the one village that had all the whole female force, the fighting force, and they all seemed to be benders, but they seem to be the only ones.
The Kyoshi warriors aren't benders, actually.
They're not? Okay. They're just martial artists. Okay. Well then, yeah, because then there really wasn't any earth. There haven't been a predominant number of earthbenders that I've seen yet. There was like the crazy dude who tried to walk him through a canyon and got destroyed, and then Boomy. But like, so like, it just seems like to me it would be like a logical path of like, you have to understand this, whatever place you start, that's going to be your primary starting point. So like Aang starts with airbending, and then next in the cycle is waterbending. So it's like the evolution of your personality goes through that cycle as well, is what I was kind of wondering if that's what was trying to be said there.
I mean, I feel like, especially with this like central idea of reincarnation in the Avatar cycle, like I feel like part of it is probably intended to be kind of this like relearning of your past self in those other things, but then it's interesting that it follows the same order as the cycle rather than like going backwards.
I'm also curious.
Like fire is the last thing that Aang learned.
Well,
That is
so does Aang have the most difficulty learning Earth?
No.
Okay.
I mean, actually, he does have trouble learning the. It's completely contrary to what the way he perceives the world.
And it should be, because those,
but I think
going back to the classic elements, that would be the diametrically opposed element of air.
I think he struggles with fire because fire has hurt so many people, and by the time he does get a firebending master, he has already made a vow to himself not to use it, so he has to kind of change his mind about that. But I do think Earth is hard because he just has to assume the opposite position.
Well, because you had said, I think is it Roki? The
Avatar Roku.
Avatar Roku.
The fire.
Yeah, he had the most trouble with water.
Yeah.
So and then I know with does Korra have, or is she kind of like a prodigy of all of them?
Actually, Vero said it that Korra struggles with air, which is the element of the previous Avatar. That's an interesting point that I've never really considered before.
Oh, so interesting. So, but is she a waterbender initially?
She's a waterbender.
Okay.
And also she was able to firebend and earthbend very early on.
So she's kind of like
as an infant.
Oh, okay. So she's kind of like a prodigy that's outside of the normal anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. And that brings us to, let's see. We got Aang, Katara, Sockman. Do we want to talk about
Aang,
what's that? Katara. We talked about Appa and Momo a little bit. What about would next be Zuko?
Yeah.
So what's going on with Zuko? What's his damage?
Well, he's voiced by Rufio from Hook.
Oh my god! Yes.
Yeah.
My already kind of like for his character just went up even more.
Zuko, right?
Like even from what I've seen, like the limited episodes that I've seen, he is already grown. Does he continue on that? Does he actually does he grow the most out of all the characters?
I mean, well, the most.
Well, okay. I mean,
I don't know about the most.
Okay, that's fair.
It's not linear growth either, which is why Avatar is such a great series. No one grows linearly.
Correct.
They grow in a natural way, and they go forwards and back, positive and negative choices that are their own environment and situation. So Zuko has the most development, but he made, I would say, as many bad choices in the series. Good.
Right. Which is fair, but I mean, he also comes from a very damaged situation. I think would be fair to say, right?
Issues.
Yeah, I mean, because the most prominent thing is like his face is a scar, right? It's the burn scar, and that actually was given to him by his father, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who is the Lord of the Fire Nation? Am I remember that hierarchy correctly?
Yeah.
He's the head right now. The Fire
right.
Lord. Okay. Because I think we just recently saw that episode that kind of explained because I think Iroh was explaining to the guys on the ship. He's like, no, Zuko actually got that because he stood up for you, basically. So Zuko has been exiled at the start of the series. And up until that episode, we never really we never understood why, but he is now chasing.
We do understand why later.
Well, but until the episode with Iroh explaining it,
yes.
It wasn't. It was just like he was exiled, and everyone kind of was thinking that it was because he was spoiled. But then they kind of were like, no. And Iroh was the one that set the record straight on him or on that. But Zuko is obsessed with capturing the Avatar or killing the Avatar? Capturing, okay. And then his intent, like, basically is to use that as a way to buy back into his father's good graces, I guess.
Because he was specifically told that he would be exiled until he finds the Avatar and
Okay.
That's how he
Avatar back.
restores his honor and ends his banishment.
Got it. And that's where he runs into conflict with Zhao, right? It's because both of them are kind of chasing that prestige.
That's an interesting question because I don't think Zhao has the Avatar in his necessarily at first. I think he does it. I think
at first he seems to do it
spite,
just to F with Zuko more than anything.
Zhao was present at the fight that disfigured Zuko's face.
Okay.
And he's a really repugnant character. He does many throughout his life, and he seems to take enjoyment out of the fact that Zuko's disappeared. Like, so he really enjoy rubbing salt in the wound that Zuko is the prince, but he's banished. He does not treat Zuko like a prince. He treats Zuko like any other minor, any minor person in the army. Like, I think he calls him a spoiled brat. Wrong. Maybe I am wrong. I don't know. Maybe it's just his behavior.
That sounds like a Zhao thing to do.
Yeah, I would. He treats Zuko with the least amount of respect possible, and he treats Iroh with. He actually seems to respect Iroh to some degree. But Zhao, the way he behaves is not the way you would expect him to behave to a crown prince. And he only starts to look for the Avatar after he encounters, which I suspect is just an attempt to continue burnishing his crown and career.
Well, because I think part of that is also that, like, especially with the Fire Nation having wiped out the air nomads and Avatar not being seen in 100 years, like, I'm sure the expectation was kind of like, oh yeah, like, Ozai is tossing Zuko out and he's never going to come back because, like, that's a ridiculous thing that no one will ever be able to achieve because the Avatar is gone. Whereas, so I think Zhao kind of steps in of the belief that the Avatar is not the word just escaped me. The Avatar is just not a factor in whatever the Fire Nation needs to do. But once he learns that is a real thing, then he's all like, oh yeah.
It's also interesting to think about because, we learn later that Fire Lord Ozai has usurped his crown, that Iroh is the older brother and the crown was his. But for some reason, and we don't learn until very late in the series why Ozai was crowned the Fire Lord after the death of his father, Azulon. I don't know how to pronounce that, Azulon or Azulon. But it is interesting to consider that Ozai has two children, Azula and Zuko. Zuko is banished until he captures the Avatar. So you would think that and it is you're right, it is like a wild goose hunt in that no one has seen the Avatar in 100. But even after finding out that Zuko has seen him, you would think that he would assist Zuko. Instead, he really is self-centered and he has two different aims at some point. One is to capture the Avatar, the other is to blot out the moon, which we learn is possible later on in the series. But he'd had that goal for a long time. But considering that Ozai only has two children, Azula and Zuko, you would expect one of them to be considered the heir. And I'm wondering if Azula is not considered the heir, if there is some kind of sexism at play there. Because why else would someone want so much to be the person who captures the Avatar and to do all if Azula not the person to inherit, and also Zuko not banishment and the lack of honor associated with him. It is interesting that he doesn't treat him with any respect at all. You would expect the oldest born son to be the next in line, but
Well, we also don't see Azula at all in the first book,
Yeah.
right?
But isn't she mentioned?
Probably.
I haven't
But
heard
I don't.
about her yet.
I feel like we don't have any idea of what Azula is doing while
Yeah.
this conflict is happening. That ends with Zuko and Zhao heading to the Water Tribe.
Mr. Dino Games made a good point, which is that Zhao takes over Zuko, which lets Zuko's own character develop. That's really true. he is this really evil character, almost unredeemable, and we learn more about, like, we find out that he's been planning to do this evil act for a while. In book 2. Yeah, he does take that role, which allows set off on his own path. However, he doesn't take that chance when he's in the final battle of one at the Northern Water Tribe. It's only through Avatar and the gang's actions that they survive that. I don't think Zuko makes any steps towards good at that point.
And what about Iroh?
He has a limited involvement in that part of the show. He is on a boat for most of that. But
yeah, for a long
he's always
time, for a long time, we just see him as an advisor to Zuko, and kind of like mediating.
He's really neutral.
Yeah, Zuko's circumstances with the rest of the Fire Nation. Just kind of get hints at what an amazing and awesome character he is in book 1. Learn more about him and where Iroh came from. Probably in book 2. I think.
I would love to know if they designed his character like that, or if, like Sokka, he grew into that role because he was so popular. Because in book 1, he comes off as a really mild, silly kind of guy. But it's really in book 2 and 3, just like Sokka, that character.
I feel like especially in book 1, like Zuko called him his uncle, but like I didn't, like, especially when I was watching it, like I didn't have any concept of like, oh, like if he's the uncle and Zuko's this exiled heir, then that means that is Iroh the ruler or really close to the ruler? Like I that thought didn't even cross my mind. And then I feel like it's book 2 when we realize, oh, he's actually the older brother. He could have been the Fire Lord, and all of this stuff changed his circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, all of his history we learn by book 2 and 3, but for the most part, we're introduced to him in book 1 as an advisor, calm guy, kind of a frivolous. And Zuko, I think, calls him lazy in book 1.
Yeah, Zuko's an asshole in book 1.
Zuko is hard to. He calls him like a lazy, superficial man. When you think about it, he got banished, and his uncle came with him. Like, he didn't have to be to his ship, but he chose to be. But Zuko can't really appreciate when we meet him.
I feel like there's this question of like how deep we want to go into beyond what you've seen, Blue.
Oh no, you feel free to go. I think that if it's within the last Airbender story arc, I think it's fair game. Now, you don't worry about spoiling it for me. I'm used to filtering out spoilers all the time.
Good to know.
But I mean, so like with like Zuko and Iroh, especially because I think that it feels like they have a lot of development that gets put in later. I mean, go for it. I think that would be really interesting to hear about.
Do you want to talk about it, Josh?
Okay. Well, yeah, as chat says, Iroh is a tea addict and has certain scent to his feet. But so Iroh is the older brother of Zuko's father, the Fire Lord. Iroh was a very distinguished war general in the Fire Nation. Like he was known to be vicious, and like there's definitely like different points where we kind of see like other people in the Fire Nation have a large amount of respect for him typically, and it's because of his past. But ultimately, his last campaign was against Ba Sing Se, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then his adult son, was also in the military, and ended up dying during the conflict. And then after his son passed away, Iroh made a very different shift in his life towards what we see throughout the show. And I feel like it's after that point that he becomes a better. No, I guess we don't necessarily go into too much detail as far as like his education as a firebender, but I feel like it's after that point where he starts studying other bending philosophies,
Mm-hmm.
and becomes more open-minded and well-rounded and a lot more chill, basically.
Yeah, I think you're right. His trajectory changes after 10, which they have a memorial, both I and Iroh's son and the voice actor for Iroh Mako, which I don't know his last name by heart. But they have in the second, the Tales of Ba Sing Se is like it's not a episode. It has multiple small episodes of different characters, including animals. So you can see like 5 or 6 different perspectives of this great city in the Earth Kingdom. And they have a memorial episode where Iroh is walking around the city, and he is walking around the city buying stuff to celebrate his birthday memorial. It's one of the parts of the whole series, and I think that episode is really what represents why people Avatar so strong. They do a lot of storytelling with 5 or 6 different plots, and this one is deeply emotional, where he sings this point that's happy for a little child in the Earth Kingdom to make him stop crying, and then he goes and sings it again at his son's memorial, remembering his son's birthday. And part of the reason everything has some deeper meaning in Avatar, that was the last episode where Mako, okay, if I get it wrong, I think it's Iwamatsu, but I'm not sure. But the voice actor for Iroh was diagnosed with cancer, and that was the last recording he did, was the song "Leaves from the Vine."
Oh, wow.
It is any Avatar fan cry. It's just he literally gets emotional in the song, and you can hear him as a voice actor struggle because he had just gotten his diagnosis when he recorded that. So it is really packed with meaning. But again, the episode is not like a typical fluff filler episode. It has it moves each character on their arc. But yeah, so Iroh, he comes off as the silly vapid. Zuko even says it kind of like fourth wall breaking. You're just this shy, lazy old man. But he really is anything but that. He has come to peace with himself. He's come to peace with the fact that he doesn't fit in within his own family, which is pretty bloodthirsty, evil monarchy type family. He's rejected his family's path. He has his own path. He's so comfortable with himself that he can flow through any situation, whether he's just a traveler, where Zuko's used to being the crown prince and he can't handle these poor conditions. Iroh is always at peace as throughout their journey, whether he's eating food that people have given him, or he's a refugee, or he has his own tea shop. He fits wherever he goes. So he kind of stands out by book 2 as this character that's totally centered, totally comfortable with himself in his own element, and has made peace with his past, which is important for other characters later. Sorry, that was a lot too.
No, I think that's awesome.
He's one of my favorite characters for sure, and I think many. Yeah, that's true, Mr. Dino Games. The photo that they use for Lu Ten is based off of the voice actor when he was a young man, which again, there's always layers of detail with this show, whether it's animation or music or just the verse that they create. There's always layers of details that are so.
Well, talking about layers, this makes me nervous, but there's this other character that you guys wanted to talk about. I think it's an earthbender. I can't see it really clearly.
You mean the greatest earthbender?
Rude. Oh my goodness.
Is that what you're talking about?
So offensive.
So this is a very short earthbender by the name of, is it Toph?
Toph.
Toph Beifong, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Toph Beifong.
Flying board.
Yeah.
And so the big thing about Toph is that she is the one who teaches Aang how to earthbend. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
He wants to learn from his former friend Boomy, who Boomy has got to be ancient. If Aang is like 12 when he's frozen, so he's 100.
He's 112.
And then Boomy's still alive, so they're the same in 12. But he wants to learn from Boomy, but Boomy gives Aang a clue on what kind of earthbending teacher to find. Boomy is this kook, never does what's expected, and just always has this crazy idea. And he says earthbenders are always like formidable, strong, solid. But he says look for a teacher who will listen before bend. So try to find one. And then he literally finds a teacher who has to listen and use their other senses because they can't. And that's tough.
And you're getting mad at me for blind puns?
I mean, Boomy is allowed to be rude because he's 112. So, excuse you? Wow.
So why is Toph a fan favorite?
She's a badass, of course.
I love the absolute silence of Josh being like, how to best phrase this.
What is this question? Oh my goodness, you need to watch more. You don't understand.
Toph is a honey badger.
Yes. So, like, Team Avatar, like, heads into the Earth Nation to try and find Aang a earthbender tutor or whatever, and find a bunch of crap people, and, like, end up at, like, this, like, earthbendy, like, wrestling match situation underground or whatever.
Yep.
And then they're all like, oh, like, maybe we can get one of those people to tutor Aang. And then the last warrior of the earthbendy wrestler people ends up being Toph, this tiny little, I don't know, 12-year-old little girl. And she's just a badass. Like that's it's just a fact.
It's just a fact.
I mean, when we meet her, we're expecting her to. We don't expect her because we're going to this like basically WW underground battle, and they even do this awesome thing where the voice actor for this super powerful earthbending warrior called the mountain, right?
The boulder?
The boulder, you're right. The boulder. I'm thinking strange guy. I was thinking of Game of Thrones. I haven't even watched Game of Thrones, but I was reading about it. No, the
Why?
boulder, he uses that Randy voice from WWE, like, the boulder doesn't like your what you're saying. Like, the boulder feels conflicted about fighting a titan. And then she's like, I guess I would feel conflicted too. The pet immediately starts taking crap and like dissing him, and she's this tiny blind person. The boulder no longer feels conflicted, so they have like even the voice acting is like referring to these like large personas, and Saga is super into it from the side, like he's just all into the WWE aspect, and then Toph takes him out before he can even move. Like we see this animation shift where he's about to move, and then we go to this slow motion frame scene, and as he's moving, we see like these light waves go through him and go to her and go up her, which is her perceiving him moving because she feels through her feet through, and then before he can finish his move, she kicks, and a wave of, which is one of the coolest bending visualizations, is a wave of rocks goes and knocks him down, so he ends up in a full split before he could finish his move against her. So she, like almost by proxy, like he doesn't even get to move, which is why she's a badass. And that basically throughout the series, she just is inventive. She is faster than everyone else because she can figure their own movements and pre-act. And she's very rarely beat. I think she holds her own against many different types of warriors and benders.
And plus, like she's so good as an earthbender. Like she can feel the vibrations of other people to the point that she can tell, like she can act as her own lie detecting test. By just being able to feel the pulses of other people through the earth
and breathing. Yeah, she says she can monitor their breathing and heart rate. So she's their lie detector. She can tell when people are following them. She can tell the difference between different people. Like she recognizes, she meets Iroh when she gets angry and walks away and bumps into him, and then she recognizes him again later, just by, which is really cool.
She also apparently gives people's nicknames.
Yeah.
Aang is Twinkle Toes.
And
because as the last Airbender, he's
right,
very
no,
light on his feet.
Very light. Yeah, no, I got it. I got it, Josh. I got it.
And she calls Katara Sugar Queen, but that's a bad nickname because Katara's nickname should really be Mom. She's the mom of the group, you know? She just moms everyone to death. And it's not a bad thing. I think Sokka tries to be dad, but actually Zuko ends up being the dad. But Katara really is the mom for sure.
So I guess, and that kind of...
Or
go for it, Josh.
Well, I was just going to say that's part of why Toph has conflict with Katara, because Toph has not the best relationship with her family.
Yeah.
Not that it's like bad, just that like they didn't want her to leave home because they thought that they had a earthbender tutor for their daughter, like just as like a like a pastime and didn't realize
Diversion.
that. Yeah, they didn't realize that she was this amazing earthbender, and didn't believe that that was the case. So she just kind of goes off on her own, because she's wanting to prove herself, and because she already knows she's the greatest earthbender ever.
She's interesting because she's really. I have this theory that the more in alignment with your element, the better your character does in the show. That if you're out of alignment with your element, you're gonna fail, and if you're in alignment, then you're gonna succeed. And Toph has the least character development of anyone in the show. She comes in and she knows who she is, and really kind of development episodes. One where she's Katara. Katara wants her to help look for firewood and set up camp, but she's like, nope, I don't need your help. I did everything on my own or anyone else. And that show, it actually isn't, in that episode, it isn't super resolved. They don't really say, okay, from now on, you're gonna set up camp while Sokka gets food and I'll look for fire. They don't really solve it, but she's really not part of the team to kind of add her to this mentality. And then later she has this girls episode where Katara wants her to just be girly with her, and Toph is not a girly girl. She actually enjoys doing the girly things like going to the spa. And that character development, she doesn't grow. She explains to Katara, my appearance doesn't matter. I don't need, I can't see myself, so there's putting stock in what I look like. And Katara is like, well, it just so happens that you're really, and that makes Toph happy, but it doesn't change her as a character. She's a very solid state person who needs very little development. Even through Legend of Korra, she changed very much, which is really interesting from a character point of view. She's so solidly developed from the very beginning.
So she's kind of like Iroh, right? Because Iroh doesn't really sound like he changes much from when we see him. Like he changes in the past, but because you were saying Iroh's already kind of come to grips with who he is and what his past is and all that.
I would agree with that. I mean, even though she's a tiny little, probably also 12-year-old,
right. But I mean, from a character,
Iroh.
From a character standpoint, she and Iroh are very similar in that they are very, very secure in their element. But then I guess the follow-up question there is what does that mean for the Avatar? How can you be secure in your element when you are all elements? What does that mean for the Avatar?
Well, Aang is kind of interesting because he should go with the flow. That's the philosophy of the air nomads, as we understand it, is that they're peaceful, they're not. I mean, he says all the time that the monks taught him to be unattached. And he gets a guru later on who tells him he has to let go of all of his attachments, which Aang is kind of hard to pin down there because he never, from the beginning, he's never at one with his original bending, which is airbending, because he's very stubborn and he also shirks his duty. He doesn't go with the flow. He runs from the flow. He has guilt for this later, but and we understand why. But he literally abandons his post because he's scared of what he'll have to do as the Avatar, not being able to accept that he can't just play ball with his friends anymore. So he runs away, and because of that, his nation gets murdered by the. Aang is hard to pin. I really thought a lot about this, but his character development is probably the most intricate, I would say, of any of them, in that he is at times peaceful. He is always peaceful. He doesn't want to kill people, but he by accident maybe he doesn't think about it. But he
But also in like a
He's not-
Nickelodeon way where like we probably can't really confirm that they're
Yeah.
dead. Maybe they're just unconscious.
Yeah.
They're just off
Now,
the
if-
screen.
Yeah.
If we had more episodes from like Azula or Zuko, see what they
We would
leave
totally
behind
see
as
people
they
on
walk
fire.
There'd be a line of no, isn't he hard to pin down, Josh? Like he's actually pretty
mean-
stubborn, and he fights with all of his masters. Like he
Mhm.
disagrees with them strongly.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a very like air characteristic in that, in kind of like finding your own path. But I think that also has to do with his avatarness, because I think like in talking about like these characters that are very stable and solid within their likeness to their like elemental nature, he has to have all four elements within him, and he has to find a balance and harmony.
Yeah.
So there's this kind of, I don't know, maybe like Eastern philosophy kind of balance and harmony kind of aesthetic, but then also like Western medieval alchemical philosophy in terms of like, oh yes, like when you have this understanding of the four elements and how they make up everything and how they're all interconnected, and
Yeah.
you can't weigh one more than the other, then you kind of self-actualize and become this greater thing.
Right. Well, and
So
he
I-
also has like a time clock also that he has to find self-center yourself. That normally takes like years, but you have I can't remember, like it's like 3 months or
yeah.
it's like you have to do this in
Yeah.
2 months. Good luck. And it's like, wait, what? Like I'm 12. Like what?
Yeah. Poor Aang.
I mean, I think that kind of works with my theory too, though, because Airbender, we see Gyatso's skeleton, which is a really rough moment for.
Right.
He doesn't have parents; he has monks who raise him, which is super interesting and kind of dystopian. Monks raise all of the Airbenders versus their parents. So his closest friend was Gyatso, and don't we learn later that Gyatso had a connection with Roku? That they were friends, but Monk
That sounds
Gyatso is like
familiar.
he's the one most protective of Aang. Like the other no really worried about the Fire Nation, and they just want him to train. Gyatso's like, let's take these pies and throw them out the window. And they'll
I saw that episode. He's like, and go. Your aim is getting better.
Yeah. So he's this kind of lovable old dude who is really protective of Aang's age. Like he understands that we're at war, but he doesn't want Aang to like ceaselessly train because he understands that Aang is still a child. So, child actor laws, child labor laws. He can't.
That okay.
Josh is like, wasn't expecting that one, but okay.
But like, what he can't healthily just dive into this war, being
Right.
mindful of his age. It's not appropriate. What kind of avatar would be so non-emotional, non-healthy? So Gyatso is protective, wisely protective, because Gyatso is arguing, and Aang hears that the other monks are going to be away from Gyatso because they think he's a bad influence. He's not letting Aang reach his potential. Gyatso convinces them
Also,
to let
they're
him stay.
running out of pies.
Yeah. Well, convinces them to let him stay, but by the time he goes to find Aang, only heard that they were going to send him away from his friend who's like protecting. So he abandons the temple before he can really tell Aang that no, you're actually going to stay. And if he had heard it, obviously the thing would have turned out. He wouldn't have left the air temple. Well, actually, it might not have turned out differently. He might have just been murdered because he only knew airbending at that point.
Yeah, the show would have ended. We would have skipped ahead to Legend of Korra. There wouldn't be
No!
like technological
Maybe Katara
advances.
maybe
Ugh,
maybe
no.
Katara would have been the next waterbender avatar.
I-
To your point, Josh, I think Aang doesn't have to be aligned with his element because he does have all four. So maybe it's more that he has to be aligned with his core values, which he does by the end of the show, staying aligned.
I mean, I feel like part of that is a very like air-like quality though, because it's air doesn't necessarily have a course that it has to follow. Like it will follow a course if it's made to, but sometimes like Earth will make, I mean, air will just like what is the analogy I'm trying to think of?
It's not something that can get pinned down because it's ethereal. It's it's not gonna, you can't pin air down. That's the whole point of it, is that it's something that will go where it needs to go or where it's directed. But even then, if it finds a gap somewhere, it will escape. Like, and that's where with Aang's character, I definitely see that, because like it's like if you've ever, I don't know, like it makes sense to me because I'm thinking like air ducts. If you ever have like an air duct that you're trying to fix or whatever, if you have one small hole in that air duct, the air is it's just gonna go out, and it's just gonna keep going. It's not gonna care. You have to actually like, block it in completely to get it to go where, quote unquote, you want it to go. But well, I think that's a good place to wrap up and start looking at shout outs for the advanced session. So Katie, you got any shout outs for us this time around?
Shout outs for who?
The advanced session. You have any shout outs for us for this episode?
Anna?
Fair enough. All right.
Anna's my fave.
Josh, what about you?
Shout out to my cabbages once again, because they're probably gone.
They're destroyed.
They're destroyed.
My poor cabbages.
My cabbages.
Why? The cabbage crisis. Oh man. Well, I wanted to take this and say again thank you to both of you. I think that I'm interested if I can coerce Katie into maybe writing an article about Avatar, or Josh, maybe we get one from you. I think both of you would have some really good insights into some of the characters. Hint, Josh.
All I heard was silence. There was just like long silence. Where that suggestion went? It's like it just flew away.
Oh man. So for everyone who's listening in the live chat, thank you again for your time. And until next time, remember, with wisdom we conquer, stand strong, stand tall, and keep exploring. Hint. What? I chewed you out. I don't know what you're talking about.
So,
yes.
Are we still on?
Well, I mean, we're still on, but we're not recording anymore.
Okay.
Like the Twitch is still live, but
oh dear,
we're done with the recording.
Okay.
Never seen shoutouts derail before.
I mean,
That's probably my fault. I'm sorry.
Nope, that's Josh's fault.
Yeah. I feel like I've derailed shoutouts before.
It's like, no, that's I'd totally take that. That's me.
I assume this is why Green isn't here today. Is that what's going on? God damn it.
Oh no, she had a it's her anniversary, so she has a date night with her wife.
Aw. Shit. Shout out to
Yay.
Green. Edit that in.
I will
Happy
do that.
anniversary, Green. I hope you have a nice dinner out. We're in. Pandemic.
Yeah, I think she was like, we're gonna stay and do nothing. All right.
I hope they got Animal Crossing.
Film crit Hulk's take on Avatar on Twitter. Oh, he's live tweeting his watch through.
See, I started doing that, and then I just got sucked in, and then I forgot.
I did
had a
that for
Twitter.
Dark and apparently made people laugh because my reaction to Dark was basically kill them all. Like,
Well,
I mean, it wasn't wrong. I'm still gonna stand by my initial reaction.
Spoilers.
there are some good characters.
Spoilers.
They're just it's like 1 to 10. For one good character, there's 10 twisted as hell characters.
God, man, season 1's finale I still is like one of my current, like, recent favorites for a cliffhanger episode. That ending was just
Wait till you watch
just like
season 2.
chef's kiss.
Bruh.
It was
Wait
perfect.
till season 2.
That's what Veru is saying.
I liked season 1 finale, and then I saw season 2, and I was like, what? You should watch Dark, Josh.
I mean, maybe.
It depends how much.
I have a long list of things.
What's next on your list? Voltron?
I don't know. I'm.
That makes sense.
I just love that.
Right now I'm trying to finish Kim's Convenience. So I feel like I need another light show once I finish that.
A light show. Have you seen? Oh wait, Barry's not very light. Barry is very funny, but it's also super gory and dark.
Yeah, I feel like I need to wait until like after quarantine. Oh, I need to watch Altered Carbon.
Do I have any light shows on my queue? I don't think so. This I have is Beast Stars or Beast Stars, which is an anime show about anthropomorphic animal.
Ooh, speaking of anime shows with animals, have you seen Agretsuko?
I love Agretsuko.
Oh my god. Agretsuko is amazing. I don't know how I stumbled on that, but it's so good.
I was about to say, how did you stumble onto that? That's not something.
No,
that is not something
I feel
you're like. Oh,
it's probably. Yeah, like I don't know. I probably had seen everything on Netflix when I found it, and then it turned out to be so good.
I'm trying to go through my head of what you would have to watch for this to be like, hey, so we suggest this show.
Well, it's a Netflix. They have categorized it as a Netflix original. So
is it really? Is it really?
Well, like, I don't think it was produced by Netflix. I think
Just,
like they're marketing it as a thing that they have the rights to. They're the only ones with the rights to release it in the US.
It's not the same word as original Netflix.
Well, that's the same. That's also the branding that they use for Black Mirror, which did not originate on Netflix. And also Dark, apparently.
Well, I think Dark did. I think Dark was a Netflix think Dark originated. I think Dark was one of those because they did like they've been doing a lot. I don't know. I'm not sure about that.
The genre also says German TV shows.
No, Dark. Yeah, Dark is a Netflix original because they have Dark and then they have Diableros, which is really good actually. You need to watch that if you haven't watched it already. It's basically
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's basically supernatural in Mexico City. It's hilarious, but it's also a lot grittier
I have a
than
lot
supernatural.
of feelings about
No.
supernatural.
It's like the concept of like the demonic fighting, but it's I don't know how to explain it. It's just watch a couple episodes because the characters like they have some of the best banter, and then like when you get into like I've watched all of season 1 and I've about a quarter of the way through season 2, but like the whole story arc of season 1 is really interesting, and it ties into a lot of Mexican mythology and their understanding of spiritual supernatural events and stuff like that. It's really cool. But then and then what was the other one that they did? Protector, I think, was the other one, which was it was decent.
That's a lot of words. I don't understand them. I also recently watched this amazing reality competition show about like
There's a lot of directions this statement can go.
It was so strange, but it was so good. Like they were like, I don't know, they were making like big like sculpture things, and it was very strange.
It was very strange.
Yes, it was worth it. You should watch it, but also it's very strange. I don't know why.
What is this show?
I can't remember what it's called now. Oh, Big Flower Fight.
Big Flower Fight. I'll write it down.
You should. It's so good. I don't know. I'm also watching a lot of TV shows like in the background. I can't really watch Dark right now. Or Altered Carbon. Because I just have
Altered Carbon. Oh my god. Have you seen any? You've seen season 1, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Like season 1 was so good. So like I've been needing to watch season 2 like for so long now. I just haven't had the time.
I need to watch Resleeved because I forgot they put that up there and it popped up the other day.
I started that and I was like, I don't know what this is, and it's not played that game.
Let's not play that game.
Like, it was weird.
Sorry, my phone died. I apologize. The stream killed it.
Oh.
It was dead for a while. It wasn't battery related either. It was just like it couldn't handle the awesomeness, so it just froze and it was coming to terms with its reality. It had to be centered. It had to find its path.
The Expanse is good. Westworld season 3 of Westworld season 3 is currently coming out, right? Or it's currently.
I think it just ended.
Nice. That means that.
Do either of you watch Shingeki no Kyojin?
You know how Josh said there were words that were said, not understood?
Attack on Titan.
I watched some of it, and
I watched the anime, and then I couldn't wait, and I read the manga. So now I read scans online, and yeah, and it's intensely good. It is probably one of the best plotted shows I've ever seen.
I don't know. Trigun could probably run it for money.
Trigun?
Mm-hmm.
I loved Trigun.
Trigun was fucking amazing.
I think it's better. I really loved. I know. I really loved Vash. I really loved Trigun, but I think think Attack on Titan is bigger in scope, and
yeah, I could see that. Trigun was pretty. It dealt with larger picture, but it was actually like the storyline was really actually pretty laser focused on.
Mm-hmm. And it's one of those shows, some minor detail that you don't even pay attention to, like a background character will suddenly have intense importance 3 seasons later, and you're like, holy crap, they created a huge ass.
That's why you didn't get killed.
Yeah, like you just, and it's bizarre because you'll go back to older chapters or the older episodes, and it's just I don't want to spoil it because it is so popular, but it's even to the point where like the anime will try to tease you with fitting in the manga concurrently, and you're like, what the hell? Like, how? Why? Who is this detailed? He must be.
So is the anime actually congruent with the manga? Because I know that's a
no. There was like a 3-year, maybe a 2-year or 3-year gap after season 1 where we're like, what the hell's going on? And then it caught up, and actually.
But I mean, is the anime staying faithful to the manga?
Oh, I thought you said concurrent. Like
no, yeah, sorry, I did, but I meant is the storylines aligned? Okay.
Yeah,
because that's like Hellsing and Full Metal. They reached a point and it was like, whap. I was like, where did you go?
Oh my god!
Why did you go that direction?
No, it's crazy because again, I don't want to spoil, but it's very clear that the people who are working on the anime are really in sync with Isayama and are getting their vibes from him, and everything is. It's not like as detailed. I don't think any anime can be as detailed as manga, but it's very faithful.
How many seasons do they have now?
They're currently season 4 will come out in the fall, and what's bizarre, there's like twice as many chapters to cover in season 4, and the manga is ending in just a couple of chapters. So season 4 is going to go through the end of the manga. It's probably going to have the same number of episodes, like 20, maybe 22, but it's got a lot more ground to cover, which is intense, but kind of like Avatar, it's covering a lot of ground in a fairly short amount of time.
I'm going to have to start making a Josh list of things I need to watch.
It's really enjoyable. I recommend it highly enough. There's one episode in
I don't think very highly of that idea that you would create a Josh list.
Josh is like, we've reached this point. This is bad.
Yeah, who knows where my list is? I feel like there was an order that I was supposed to watch stuff in, but I'm just like finding out what's online.
Well, you just watched a cartoon from 2005, so you're almost
who knows?
Wait,
I just watched Upload on.
Oh, how was Prime? That? Yeah, it's on Prime. Is it any good?
It wasn't bad. I think it took I feel like it took an episode of Black Mirror and made it into a series.
Movie? Yeah, that's is it a series or is it a movie?
It's a series.
Oh, it's a series. Oh, okay.
So yeah, it was good, but then it's also like it was so good. There's no topping it. So it's complicated.
Josh, can I ask you a question?
I assume
will you
answer?
Said, will you answer the question?
I don't. You kind of cut out there, so I don't know what's happening. But go for it.
What was with the noise when I mentioned Voltron? He made like kind of a
Oh. I don't know. I never really got into Voltron. it stems to like childhood and like I was a Power Ranger fan first before I even found out what Voltron was. So even though Voltron like technically came first, like my view of it was always like, oh, it's like Power Rangers, but they're all lions. So
I mean, that's not. You're not wrong. Like you're not wrong. It is.
yeah,
Voltron came first.
Right.
it did, but
No, I
not
just
according to my perspective.
Yeah.
He's like, yes, but not in my world.
Hey, I like the Power Rangers too. I liked the very clearly pink one because that's what I was socialized to like.
So there's this
Oh.
Power Rangers fighting game that's like apparently on a whole bunch of platforms, but like it was just on sale on Switch, so like I ended up getting it for like when I need a break from Animal Crossing, which is not very often. But so like I guess it's like based on some kind of Power Ranger comic that came out recently ish.
Oh, is this
Where,
the Battle for the Grid or whatever?
Yeah, where like in another alternate universe, Tommy is a bad guy, and
I mean, is it
alternate
really an alternate universe?
Kimberly has to save the day. Like,
Okay, that is an alternate universe.
wow, rude.
But true.
Rude. But so yeah, so like this fighting game or whatever, like I don't know, like I guess it's more complex and it's not just Kimberly saving the day. But like so many Pink Rangers.
So many
like
Pink Rangers.
Starting characters. And so many of them are apparently there's also an Orange Ranger now. Like I don't know what the fuck season that was. Yeah, like this doesn't make sense.
You have your pick of like 250 seasons, so
I mean, when the fuck did they get orange?
I don't know, but I'm just saying there's enough variations that they're probably running out of colors at this point.
I don't know. It's fun. All the Pink Rangers and this rando Orange Ranger are the leads. Oh, and then Trini has like badass dragon battle armor for some reason that I don't understand.
Nice. I hope it's not Orientalism, but okay.
I don't know. Like, I probably need to like.
I love how he's like, I don't know.
I probably need to find this comic series or whatever that it's based on. But like in the video game, it's just like, I don't know. Apparently, Jason survived also, so he's also like telling Kimberly like, "Hey, like, go save the city, and hey, you should bring Trini because she's been working on this armor." And then like the shows up and she's in this huge ass armor and it's just fucking awesome.
Well, that sounds amazing. I know Voltron got like a limited edition run of comics that were really fun and built onto the series in a not necessarily world building, but also character building way, but it was really small. I feel like it was like 8 or maybe 5 comics total. Which is sad because
like based on the most recent series.
Yeah, Voltron Legendary Defender, and then it's actually sad because Avatar has a pretty strong comic book series that is really great.
I am borrowing the graphic novels from a friend right now, and I think I just finished the third novelized collection of 4 novelized collections for the Avatar series.
Yeah, I have all of them, and I think they're really excellent. I loved Adventure. I thought it was perfect. The writing is really sharp. I don't know how involved the creators are, but they must be because they're really faithful and they don't sometimes comics can, especially comics of major series, they kind of run buck wild from the intention, but these just always add to Avatar and they don't detract ever. They're interesting and answer.
Yeah.
There was a lot of unanswered questions in the series, but they do a good job of answering them.
Yeah, the versions that I'm borrowing have like commentary notes on the sides from like the artist and the main writer, but then there's also like some notes there's added in a little bit, like, so I guess they were at least part of the conversation if they didn't specifically write any of the issues.
I'm terrible at reading
Good.
like forwards and stuff, and I never read
Yeah,
them.
I don't know, the first one that I got, like, I tried to read them, but then I was like, there was also like some of the text where it's just like filler, because it's like, we tried really hard to put this thing in the scene, and then like we did, so it's just like, I don't fucking care about that. Like, why would you even bother writing that? Like, I don't care. So I don't know. Like, there was because with the second collected about the search for Zuko's mom, like, it had some very interesting commentary, at least, because it like talks about like the design for shit, what's her name? The spirit lady that they
Oh, in the comic.
shit, I can't
Hold
remember
on,
her name now.
My spicy soda is like kicking in just a little bit.
Ew. You know, I bet that would be good with ice cream and or vanilla rum.
It's really good with ginger beer. So
I mean, I guess, but like also ice cream.
yeah, ice cream. Okay, I'm looking at a list of all the spirits. I have no clue. There's the painted lady. No, this isn't a comic, right? I can't.
Yeah, from the comic.
Yeah, I'd have to. I can't remember. That's a lot to remember. I had this whole theory, but I guess I'll write a blog about it here.
Nice.
She volunteered.
She volunteered.
One symbol. If you could choose one symbol to represent Avatar, and I have the perfect symbol. Do you have one, Josh? I do.
What do you mean by symbol?
That appears in the show. Like, if you could symbolize Avatar, and it's not Aang's arrow, like, what would you symbolize?
I don't know that I know.
Yeah.
What is your answer?
Yeah, Josh is like, what is?
My answer, yeah, no, that's not a fair question, because I was totally up last night at like 2 a.m, like thinking.
He's like, I've done research already on this.
It would be Sokka's boomerang. Just because it always returns. It's like faithful. It always returns, but it's unexpected. It doesn't always come in the path you're expecting. So it usually people who don't
clobbers somebody in the head.
Sparky.
Oh, Sparky's. Oh, we should have talked about Sparky Boom Man.
We should have.
No, Sparky Boom Boom Man. I can't remember what it is now.
No, that's like the Mandala. I thought it was Sparky Boom Boom Man, but rewatching it, and I've seen it like Sparky Boom Man. It just doesn't sound so. It's Sparky, but like it's also like alignment and timing, and he has to let it go at the end of the series. So that's why his represents the whole series. Yeah, it's all about the
let it go.
Yeah. He does.
Does he let it go? Because he's got it in the comic. They didn't explain that.
Who is Sparky Boom Man?
Maybe he gets a new one. He's an assassin.
You are gonna need to finish watching because I don't know. This is what happened to me.
Is this a
I
character
was
that's like
partway
later?
through season 1, and then like I was talking to like my local friends here about how I started watching Avatar, and they should be totally proud of me. And then they started talking about Sparky Sparky Boom Man, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" So now I am sharing that experience with you. So you just hold on to that until later.
I'm so glad that your reaction was the exact same as mine. I was like, the fuck is this? On that note, I'm going to go watch Avatar. So talk to you guys later.
Oh, yeah, you should. I will also say this is a very gifable show. Like there are some
Oh, shit.
some
Yeah. I've already.
choice gifts out there.
Yeah. The fucking marble. Ah! It's like,
my
god
favorite
damn
would
it.
probably be cactus juice gif. Cactus juice with the
Oh,
like
yes.
pupils dilating. That's like my favorite.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you really need to catch up, Jay.
Mushy,
It's
mushy,
scary
mushy.
when I start typing in Avatar cac and it's cactus juice gif. Here, we'll give it to you. It's like, I'm like, oh, this is apparently a popular one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Secret tunnel. Secret tunnel. Truly like the gifted, music.
Why
Like, who
is
wrote
he
that
doing the
song?
caterpillar? I am so confused.
To be fair, my daughter and I watch the leaves from the vine and like just look at each other like half crying. Like, you want to watch it again? Okay. So you go watch. What episode are you on? Like,
What the fuck is this? He's like
What do you-
worshiping an atomic bomb cloud.
he's
Yeah.
out of commission that whole episode, and it really shows because they don't make the best choices in that episode.
He is a little bit stoned, but in like a Nickelodeon way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
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 like
what I
funny and like cactus juice.
drink cactus juice. It'll quench you.
It's quenchiest.
Nothing's quenchier. It's the quenchiest.
It'll quench ya. Okay,
Friendly
Real talk.
mushroom.
real talk. I think the comedy in Atla is like key to why it's successful. It's so funny, and it's just funny in
Oh,
such a
absolutely.
ridiculous way, in a weird and ridiculous way.
I was not expecting to find it funny. Like especially after I did not enjoy the first episode 10 years ago, but like
Oh, that's Momo.
It
on
turned
his
out to
back.
not
That's what's
be-
going on.
oh Momo.
I couldn't figure out why he had a tail, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" Who lit Toph on fire?
My favorite joke would be when Suki saves Toph, and she thinks it's Sokka, so she kisses Suki on the cheek. She's like, "No, actually, it's me." She's like, "Oh, well, you can just let me drown now."
All right, stream. I'm gonna call it a night. Let you guys get to bed. Gotta drive down to Texas tomorrow. So.
And then drive back and
then drive back.
finish
Yeah.
Avatar
And finish
Wait,
Avatar.
you're
in one day.
No, we meet halfway. Minions down visiting grandparents. Yes.
Oh.
Wait. Oh.
I need clarity. Yeah.
Wait,
I
he's
thought
still
you were in the
down there,
same
and
room.
Anna didn't even join us for this wonderful occasion.
Oh, they changed SBA lending again, so we're all having like to bend over backwards.
Don't know
and
what that
rework.
means. You're
It's
just saying
basically
things.
financial small business. It's all this nonsense. All right,
Well,
stream.
let me know. Let me know if you're ever interested in a part 2, or I'd love to.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, I think Veru actually I think is up on the chopping block next. I think we're gonna do League of Legends next.
Ooh, cool.
Ooh.
I think.
Is he gonna talk about KDA?
I will talk about KDA because that's probably the only thing that I'm somewhat familiar with. I'm like, there's a music group. I don't
You
know
wanna
what they
rap
do
with
in the
me?
game.
I know the song by heart.
Veru's like, all right, stream. You guys have a good night. Talk to you next week.
Night.